Welcome back to Six-Sided. Hit the like button. Make sure you are subscribing. Loads to go through today. Live Ballon d'Or updates as we continue. Scott McTominay, congratulations. Number 18th on the list. Who would have thought it? Scotty McT, Ballon d'Or nominated and voted tonight. Harry Kane, by the way, just come in 13th. Harry Kane has just come in the list there. But we've got loads to go through today. Is the criticism of Arsenal too much? The lies that we have seen in the last 24 hours about not celebrating equalizers, rest days, drying the balls with a towel, craziness across social media. We're discussing Liverpool. Are they really unstoppable this season? Can they be stopped? Will they be stopped? Pep Guardiola, we've got to have a conversation. He has become everything he and his fans despised about football. The video evidence is there of them calling out teams that do not try to win games, that are negative in games. But he has become what he hates. We're debating that and whether he should be praised or criticized for it. Also, Chelsea, winless. I'm calling it the winless banquet bucket. Since the return of football after the international break, no wins in three. Maresca did listen. There's a lot of words like cowards going around this weekend, but was Maresca a coward with these substitutions? We're delving into all of that and more on Six-Sided today. The panel's brilliant. We're joined by Tom Little. We have man like Seb on the show with us. Nobbins is back again by popular demand. Great to have you here, my friend. We've got KM with us, plus Guna Cow is on. I nearly called you Cam again. I don't know why I keep doing that. It's Cow. But Cow is with us on the show as well. So, gentlemen, welcome. How are we all?
Very well. Thank you.
Pretty good, man.
No complaints. 5 points clear.
Good. So I want to. So get
was-
Cam, mate. Go on.
No, I was just going to ask Tom, what's the thought process behind the hat?
The hair's a mess.
Oh, okay.
It's all-
As long
But
as
hang
it's
on,
got an excuse, that's fine.
you always stream with it greasy and a mess. What are you talking about?
There we go. And now
That's true.
now-
When we were in Germany, like,
here we go.
we had to, like, all the lads are like, listen, Tom, today, shower day today. Come on, shower day today. Like, it was just like all of us got to a point after a few days. We were like, we better find like a laundrette to wash our towels, right?
Oh my god.
We were going home. Tom's towel still bone clean, fresh. You could still smell the Lenore. The fabric softener was strong still. I'm only joking. He had a couple of showers that month. He had a couple of showers, I promise. A couple. But listen, people, make sure like buttons are hit. Make sure you're subscribing. Get that bell notification turned on as well. I'm not going to go to you first on this, Nobbins, but Seb, I want to go to you first. Has Pep Guardiola now become everything he and his loyal followers despise about football?
No, I think this is just kind of he has been a little bit more flexible this year. I think he did get a lot of criticism last year for sticking by his guns, especially sticking by his older, more established players. But it's the flexibility that you want your manager to do. They've gone away to a big rival, a big ground, and he's done what he thinks was best. I think he did go a little bit over the top with how defensive he was. I don't think taking Haaland off was the right decision because they did look dangerous when Haaland and Doku did break away. So I do think he went a bit too far. And then as soon as he came off, they took Haaland off. I was like, if Arsenal get back into this game, there's no way of Man City regrouping and going again because they took pretty much everyone off. So I just think he's adapting to the squad because he doesn't have the squad where before it was just pure domination in those games where the way he would dominate when they were up was to keep possession of the ball. I just don't think they have the players necessarily. They don't have the Mahrezes, they don't have the De Bruynes in there anymore. So he's just adapted to the squad he's got. So I think it's a little bit over the top. The reason it's getting the criticism is because City fans and him in the past have made complaints about teams sitting deep. But I think he's just adapted to the situation he needed to. I think he's gone a little bit far, but I think you'll see it a bit more, I think, from Man City just because they do not have the same players that they can completely dominate against sides like Arsenal. But yeah, it was a bit of a surprise, but I think the game state kind of if they hadn't have scored so early in the game, then I don't think they would have resorted to that straight away. And then the changes at half time from Arsenal to go on the front foot. So I think Pep just went with what he think was right. But I think we are going to see more of that as the season goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I'll go to you next on this. I mean, one of the fiction or fact question we had for this show today was fiction or fact. Has Pep Guardiola become everything he once criticized? Is it fair that he is praised for parking the bus while others get slammed for it?
I think the first thing to say is that Pep doesn't want to play like this. Then that's the first thing to say. He confirmed as much after the match. He basically said, I would rather not be as defensive as I was. I would rather we have more possession. I don't like the ball being near my goal. But basically, given the context of the squad, the context of the match, the matches over the past few days, fatigue, whatever, that's why Haaland came off, unfortunately, because he apparently has to come off because of fatigue. That was what his thought process was. Whether you accept that or not is another matter, but that's what he said. I'd be very surprised if we saw City do this again outside of, again, very isolated moments, maybe like at Anfield, maybe in like a big Champions League knockout match away. But again, I think most of it was enforced rather than something he actually wanted to do. Lots of people have gone, well, has Pep changed his philosophy? But based on his comments, no, this was just sort of like means to an end sort of thing. I never liked it when, like, I think, who did Rodri say it about? It was a national team, an international game, I can't remember. And Rodri said, I don't like it when teams play like this and only defend. Now, I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that there's no right way to play football. So I disagree with Rodri on that. So I don't think he's got a bit of a leg to, I don't think he's got a leg to stand on there. But in respect to Pep, I don't know if Pep's ever said, I might be wrong, I don't know if Pep's ever said that he hates teams that only defend and whatnot. I think he's always said that he's fine with them doing it. I might be wrong on that, but I can't really remember him ever saying that. But to answer the question of, has he changed? No, because I think this is just like a short-term thing. I think that we'll see in the next few games, like next 5 Premier League games, for example, I think we'll see City back to their normal style of play.
Yeah, it didn't look like Pep went into the game trying to play that way. Because if he wanted to play that way the whole game, there would have been 5 centre-backs on the pitch from the start. Or 5 defenders on the pitch from the start. I think he went into that game knowing that he'd have to absorb a bit of pressure, but I think everyone's looking at the last 10 minutes of that game and imposing that across the whole game when that wasn't the case.
I wasn't just the last 10 minutes, though. It was that second half was like, well, first of all, I just want to say this isn't a Pep problem. I think this is more of a media narrative fan problem in terms of criticizing. And the mainly stems from when it happened last year, when Arsenal went down to 10 men. We were like very, very heavily criticized for being extremely defensive, whereas Pep is being praised for it. And people think it's unfair because he didn't even go down to 10 men. And like, even watching the game, I don't know if you guys had the English commentators on, but City, they were really praising City. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so great. You know, when City, they were doing the time wasting thing, they were like, this is what you do, you know, and it's like, whoa, why is it all this, you know? And I think that's where the anger is coming from. But in terms of Pep personally, he's never once criticized a team for doing what they have to do to win. And this is definitely a temporary thing. And I think it should be commended because like good top managers change the way they play for situations they're in. That's how they keep their jobs. If Pep just continued playing the way he always played, he would lose the game. He'd lose even more games and he would probably get sacked.
And
so
I think just to build on that with Pep, he's always adapted. He's gone from the flying wingers, he's had a false 9, he's had more of a target man striker, I think. And Pep's a serial winner. We'll probably touch on Amarin here, and you can see his stubbornness and what he said last week about I'm not going to change my system. But Pep spoke in the interview, I think it was like last week, and they said, what's more important, the system or the players? And he said both. He said both are as important as each other. One can't counter to another.
By the way, I'm not sure. Sorry, KM. I'm not sure if your mic's connected. It might sound like it's coming through your camera or somewhere else. Just so you know, it doesn't sound like it normally. Just doesn't sound like it normally does.
I'll deal with that. I'll let you guys
Yeah. No worries, man. Sorry, mate. Sorry. Yeah, but look, I get where a lot of you are coming from. I think that the Gary Neville situation. I look personally. I've said it on the match reaction yesterday. I thought what Pep did was great. I have no personal problem with it. I do feel like I remember him either directly or implying like we came to play football type comments. I feel like I've heard him say that before, going as far back as these Barca days when losing to the likes of Inter Milan. I think there's been kind of, I don't think he's directly said they don't play real football, but I think there has been sort of, he's implied that. And it used to bother me when I heard that. And, you know, we had City fans that used to that come on our shows regularly. And I know you know these guys, Hamza and V and others, who would come on and do this thing of praising a team that tried to attack City but lost 5-0, but yet come on and condemn a team that sat in deep and grabbed a 0-0 or a 1-1 and say it isn't football. And it bothered me because when City were the best footballing team, that's one of the only ways you could really get a point off City was by adapting your game. And I think it was just kind of, for me, it was a beautiful irony yesterday in seeing City have to do that. And although the supporters will be relatively happy with getting a point away, there were some, and not you, Nobbins, because I know you've always praised it. There are some that were probably sitting there dreading going online later because of all the mad things they've said about teams being pragmatic in the past, which is why that's why my series Killing the Game exists, because you never know how you're going to play in the future. You never know who's going to be your manager, who your owner's going to be. Don't just say shit for the sake of saying shit to shit on people, because it's at some point in the future, it's going to come back to bite you in the arse a little bit. But I sort of felt what he did yesterday was the right thing to do, because I think if you go to the Emirates as City right now and you kind of open up and you go toe to toe, I think a similar result to last year could happen. You could end up conceding 3 or 4 or 5 goals. It becomes an embarrassing day. And then that progression made in terms of performances and points against United and Napoli, that almost dissipates again. Because I don't know if you feel this, Nobbin, as a City fan, that I still feel you're a little bit vulnerable, if that makes sense. I feel like if you can see the goal, there seems to be like a bit of a confidence crisis right now.
Yeah, definitely. Like we saw it against Brighton, like the capitulation happened. We saw it against Spurs, like one goal goes in and then all of a sudden like we shit ourselves. That's why the Arsenal performance was so good, because City proved me wrong. I didn't think we had the personnel to play like that. I didn't think we had the mentality to play like that right now. But we did. Like we set up in a very different way. We played 4-4-2 rather than our usual 4-1-4-1. So it was clearly by design to play like that, which is interesting. So again, like Pep acknowledging and understanding that point. So yeah, that was just a thing, and it's like building off what was said about the Arsenal performance. I think if you were seriously criticising Arsenal for defending with 10 men last season, I think that's silly. Personally, I didn't have a problem with that. I thought it was a very good defensive display up until the last minute. So I've never been that sort of person. Just depends on the context, I think. So for example, I did have a problem with how Arsenal played in that 0-0 a couple years ago, but that's because there was a different context in the title race. So I think it does depend on the match. Absolutely, but yeah, but I didn't like how City played from like an aesthetic perspective. It wasn't pretty. I didn't like it from like a tension perspective, because I was just like on the edge of my seat the whole time. Like it wasn't a fun experience to watch. But no, I think City were well within their right to play like that, and very nearly got a very, very good victory as well.
I hear that, Tom. There's a few people in the comment section whilst we're talking, and they're essentially saying, I'm sort of blocking all their comments together. They're saying, well, the pundits and the media are right to criticize Arteta for playing that way because he has no credit in the bank. He's never won a major trophy other than the FA Cup. Pep has, therefore he can play how he wants and still be praised for it. Is that something we should be advocating or accepting as fans, that Pep's allowed to sit in when needs must and be praised for adapting? But if an Arteta adapts when needs must, he must be criticised because he's not won trophies. Is that the direction we're going in now in football?
That narrative's stupid, but I think that the whole understanding of the Pep praise compared to the Arteta criticism stems from the fact that we've never seen Pep do this. So it's also the first time you see it, like, oh my God, wow. Well, it's impressive they're doing it. Whereas with Arteta, it seems like this is what they do. Again, when that lineup came out yesterday for Arsenal, and you're seeing the same midfield three of Marino, Zubimendi, and Rice, and ultimately that game, Pep took it, it had to go extreme towards the end, but Pep just sort of showed Arsenal's weaknesses in terms of, if you can limit the set piece creativity, they look quite toothless at times. Now, albeit they didn't have the starters on the pitch in the first half, and they came on in the second half. But it's not like in the second half, Arsenal were creating all these gilt-edged chances that they were missing. I think Pep got praise for it yesterday because it's something new. Arteta gets the criticism because he needs to do something else to convince people that it's going to be different, because we've seen this setup the last 2 years and it's not got them over the line. Now, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. I think that's where certain people are going with it, in the case of it hasn't worked that time. You've bought new players now who are supposed to be the difference to getting over the line, and yet you're still reverting to the same type. You're still reverting to the safe option. I know for sure if Kai Havertz was fit, Kai Havertz will have started one of the big games this season up front. 100%. This is what it does. And I feel that's where the criticism is coming from. It's the case of, what is it going to take for you to actually own the fact you're Arsenal, own the fact you're one of these favourites, and try and impose yourselves on a big team, especially at home. Because when you're seeing Mikel Merino, Zubimendi, Declan Rice, midfield three at home, and you've got Eze and that on the bench, it must be a little bit underwhelming. I just think that Pep showed again the same problems that Arsenal have this season.
I'll get that, and we'll get on to Arsenal in a minute. I want to keep it on this subject in a moment around credit in the bank, because for me, Cal, credit in the bank used to be used in the footballing sense. If, for instance, Fergie went a year without winning a trophy after winning everything he had done, credit in the bank essentially meant we know how good he is, we know how successful he is. There's no need to call for him to be sacked. Pep Guardiola last season is a prime example. He's done trebles, he's done four-peats, he's won in every country he's been in. One season where he can't orchestrate your team to win a trophy doesn't equate. You've got to sack him. He's had enough. He's spent enough. It's now being used in other forms. I'm seeing it used in the sense of, let's just say, I'll give you an example where I see it being used. At Arsenal right now, you guys do this thing where you put the pictures up of special moments throughout the season as a way of helping to motivate the players. It goes up in your training ground. And I'm seeing people call it cringe and it's ridiculous. Then it turns out a lot of the other big clubs and successful clubs do it. Liverpool are currently doing it. And people say, well, Liverpool can do it because they've won before, so therefore it's acceptable. But Arteta shouldn't be doing those things because he hasn't won the Premier League. And they're using the credit in the bank phrase to kind of back it up. Are we sort of losing sight of what credit in the bank actually means?
Yeah. Well, right now, credit in the bank can be used for basically as anything against Arsenal, because we haven't won anything. So it's very low hanging fruit. So anything Arsenal does, it's cringe, because we haven't won anything. And when other teams do it, it's not cringe because they've won. That's essentially what it is. It is weird, but we're kind of used to it. Yeah, in terms of the Pep having credit in the bank, that's why people aren't criticizing his style of play. That is nonsense because it's a style of play. I think credit in the bank is in terms of you've won 4 leagues in a row, so you don't need to win the next 2. That's what it should mean, and I think it should remain like that. I don't think it should be used as like just a blind stick to beat teams with. It doesn't make any sense, and it sounds exactly, well, it looks like exactly what it is, and it's just agenda driven banter stuff. It's not real.
Yeah, no, I agree. And listen, I don't think Pep should be chastised for it. I think there's some individuals. I like Gary Neville. I think Gary Neville was praising it and saying how amazing it was. He's literally a person who was slagging off Arsenal for going attacking. And I remember him, and I think Roy Keane went in last year saying, well, they had no attacking outlet. There was no way of getting out. But then City did something very similar when they were taking off the majority of their attackers. Savio came on, to be fair, later in the game, and they got deeper and deeper. And it isn't even about, I don't think they should have slagged Arsenal off for it last year. I think they were right to praise Pep, but I do think they should be keeping similar energy. We saw it this weekend with Manchester United. It's maybe why I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet. We decided at 2-0 up, down to 10 men, confidence fragile and low, no reason to be opening up. We sat back. Yes, they got a goal back, Chelsea, from a brilliant cross, but we gave them nothing when it was 10v. So one thing I liked about going down to 10 men, we couldn't be accused of beating Chelsea because we played against them for 90 minutes, 11v10. The majority of the game, there were still even numbers, right? And what made me laugh is that we were slagged off for doing that in the second half, and we're not a very good team. And if you'd have read the reports the next day from Sky, TNT Sports, the BBC, you would have thought Man United lost the game. It was unimaginative. We should have gone for more goals. We shouldn't be sitting back. This isn't our top team should play. That was the narrative. And then I'm hearing City praise for it. City were rightfully praised for it. I'm not saying that should change, but I just want to understand why some teams get slagged off for sitting back and being pragmatic when it's necessary, but others don't. And just hearing Pep's got credit in the bank, don't cut it for me. That doesn't address why Man United, why Arsenal, and why other teams, and I'm sure people out there will remember, get criticised for it. And by the way, I'm not saying that's City's fault. It's not Pep's fault. They didn't do it at all. But yeah, it's me personally, I find it frustrating.
To be honest, it could be used for anything. Like, for example, Maresca's getting criticized because he went too defensively after going down. If Pep did it and the same thing happened, that means you can just praise him for being different again, even though you're criticizing someone else for doing the exact same thing. I really don't think it should be used the way it's being used, because you can literally make an excuse for anything.
I think the bit that annoys me, especially when Arsenal play defensive, is before we started doing all the dark arts, we got called naive, immature, things like this, when we did go out and try and be expressive against those sides, especially at the later Wenger years and Emery's. So we're trying to be more compact in those moments. And now it's, oh, you're boring, but it's like, there has to be something in the middle. Yeah, you can be. I felt we were a bit too defensive, but it's not the end of the world. I think it's just, especially now, it's obviously to keep people's attention spans, you want to make a headline. It's, oh, look at this. And it's just like, there's no nuance in the middle. Like there's arguments both sides, but how can we be naive 1 minute, but then boring and stubborn another minute? So
I think it's slightly different. Is my mic okay now?
Yeah, perfect now, bro. Got your back.
I think it's a bit slightly different. I think with Arteta and Amorim, they're arguably the two most stubborn managers in the Premier League. For example, Arteta came to Anfield with that 3 in midfield. People thought it was negative. Why did he come into that? He made the changes, bringing Eze and Saka on after about 65, 70 minutes. People called out. Liverpool were there from the taking. He's then come against a City team that's already got popped by Tottenham, lost to Brighton. He's come again defensive in a big game, especially at home when the onus is on. Amorim they've spoken about how even with that 5 at the back where Chelsea were down to 10 men, and I think it's a lot where there's one striker occupying 5 defenders, and that allows Amorim really just concedes the middle of the pitch, and it allows you guys to take in a lot of pressure and sit in. The reason where Pep maybe, and there's a level of hypocrisy, of course, but with it, he doesn't overly get. For example, he didn't start the game out like that. And again, it almost worked. Apart from the Martinelli finish, there wasn't a lot of pressure, like Tom said. There was one Eze chance that Donnarumma made a good save in the second half. It almost came off, and he didn't start with that intent like an Arteta did, which sets the tempo in the 2 biggest games of the season.
I think it is a bit over the top on saying how defensive we were. We were attacking, and they caught us in a transition. Gabriel was out of position because we were going forward. So I think everyone going, oh, you're in the mindset of being defensive immediately, has been blown out of proportion massively. Moreno isn't a defensive midfielder. He isn't a defensive midfielder for us. He hasn't been a defensive midfielder for Spain. As I said after the game, he's usually a box crashing midfielder. He's usually a box to box. I don't know if just Mikel Arteta's game plan was to retain ball in the middle of the pitch, but he wasn't doing that at all. Obviously, Cal said before, maybe it's because of the Calafiori overlapping the Timber. So he's not a traditional CDM. He's just not. So I do think the criticism for him going, oh no, he is just straight out trying to defend at home, isn't necessarily true. We were progressing at the time we conceded a goal. They got us in transition. Gabriel was out of position. If we were so compact and so defensive, Gabriel would have been in position and he would have stopped that in the first place. So for the criticism, I think is a bit over the top.
Yeah, that's
I
one of
don't
that's
think it's
correct.
that though. It's the argument that you play 4 centre-backs and 3 DMs, it's actually quite irrelevant in this. When I look at Arsenal, I look at it and go, in these big games, when you play that midfield 3 of Zubimendi, Rice, and Marino, there is absolutely zero creativity from the middle. None of them.
Well, yeah, but that's a different argument, though.
Yeah,
that's a different argument.
Hang on, Tom. But this is why it's a different argument, because especially when it comes to the media. Forget fans for a moment and rivals. So Henry Winter, would we all agree, is one of the most respected and supposedly knowledgeable football journalists in the world?
Yeah,
we would all agree. Yeah, cool. Respond, please. Just so I'm not saying away. We would.
Yeah, I assume
he come.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't think he is, then that's fine. But I need to understand that he come out and said Arsenal started with 3 DMs. Moreno is not a DM. It's the narrative. It's what is being pushed. ESPN. Okay, this is their tweet when the goal goes in. Instead of immediately going for the ball to try and go for the win, Arsenal spent a couple of minutes celebrating their equalizer by the corner flag. They didn't spend a couple of minutes. The celebration didn't last that long. It was less than a minute. Martin Zubimendi ran and grabbed the ball and was taking it back anyway. Plus, we all know you can't restart the game anyway because they're checking every goal for offsides. But that's ESPN. That is Henry Winter. This is my issue as a football fan watching. You had massive accounts yesterday. A lot of them got community noted in the end, saying that Arsenal were breaking rules by using the towels on the ball. That is an EFL rule, not a Premier League rule, as an example there. You've got City. And by the way, I don't blame City for doing this, but City players were complaining about the rest between Thursday and Sunday. Complaining about it, saying it isn't fair. Yet a year ago, when Arsenal played Spurs away, Atalanta away, and then City away in the space of the same period, same amount of rest time, no, you can't have that mentality. You can't moan about it, and the media attack them. Yet all they're doing with Bernardo Silva is sharing his comments. For me, it is as a consumer of the sport, someone who pays for the Sky Sports, etc., seeing the lies and the bullshit connect. It's not about. I criticize Arteta. I call him a coward for not starting an extra midfield player, a creative midfield player. But there's so much to criticize Arsenal about yesterday. Nobody needed to lie on top of it. The lies for me undo all the criticism because hang on a minute, you're going well over the top now, and that's the thing. I don't understand why there's always this exaggeration when it comes to Arsenal that I don't see for everybody else. I find it just tiring to listen to the mainstream media and some of the biggest media companies and broadcasters in the world lie all the time. Why? What is the point of that?
There needs to be a villain, to be honest. So, there needs to be someone to hate, It just happens to be. I think once Arsenal starts winning, I think it'll stop someone else to be the target. I reckon, for example, if Arsenal win anything this season, like say we win a major, Chelsea's going to be the next victim of this, I reckon. And Manchester United, of course. There's always going to be someone who's going to be getting this weird treatment by the media. I think right now it's just our turn. I don't think there's any real logic to it. I think it gets clicks. People like to hate us because, they say our fans are annoying. So when they see negative things about Arsenal, they pay attention. It's really that simple.
On the whole midfield selection thing, I don't even think that's the main talking point, to be honest. I don't think it should be. There's nothing wrong with playing that midfield 3 like Arteta played against Bilbao and it worked fine. For me, the problem is playing that midfield 3, but then not actually having a proper left-sided outlet. When everyone knows full well that City's frailty, our worst position is right back. How many City fans keep saying we need a right back, we need a right back, we need a right back, we need a right back? And instead of having, either Martinelli or more likely Eze to deal with one of Kusanov, Nunes or Lewis, it was Trossard, and it's 2025. So Kusanov's going to win that battle every single time. And you saw in the first half, Arsenal's only outlet was the right side. It was Madueke or bust, essentially. It got better in the second half, but the midfield can be sacrificed to an extent if you're a threat on both wings. And Arsenal weren't in either half, really. That would be my main problem.
I think that's a real great point. I want to jump to some of these super chats here. First one says, if it's not about City or this part of Arsenal. We'll come back to it in a moment. O'Malley here says 2 things can be true. Eze should have started, true, but Pep outsmarted Arteta in the first half. If City pressed as normal, Arsenal would go long from Raya and Moreno winning those headers. I think that's a.
I think it's. I was just going to say. I think it's. I don't know if outsmart's the right term, but I think it's fair to say that Arteta was definitely not expecting Pep and City to play like that. I think the lineup suggests that, but also like, I think it's like in like the first minute, Raya has the ball. And I timed it. He holds on to the ball for 11 seconds because he's expecting City to press. So he's just like waiting for like Haaland and Bernardo to commit. And they're just looking at him like, well, come on, do something. But I don't think Arsenal were anticipating City to play like that. So I don't think it's a case of outsmarting, but maybe surprising would be a better term.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the biggest problems with Arteta, to be honest, at the moment. I think he preps the team to counter whoever he places. For example, I've noticed a lot of times when a team presses and he doesn't expect them to press, our team, we look like crap for like 15 to 20 minutes. If they don't press when we expect them to press, what happens against City happens. I think like Arteta, he doesn't have this style of football that he's imposing and forcing his will on to other teams. A lot of the times he's prepping the team to play to counter whatever the other team's doing, and if it doesn't happen, he kind of gets blindsided.
I hear that. This here from Brandon, big up yourself at True Gunner TV. He says name any dead ball manager, past or present, Pulis, Big Sam, etc. Now give any of them this Arsenal team and ask yourself, would they have played that midfield 3 yesterday? I'm not convinced.
No.
Well, yeah, because if we want to go proper defensive, Norgard was on the bench, so you could have played him, but he didn't. Yeah. It's not about the defense. Just Moreno's not working, and he's too stubborn to not. No, I just think it's not even necessarily Moreno. I just don't think it worked yesterday. I wanted Eze to start. Personally, it's just I think Nobbins is completely correct. I did say it after the match reaction yesterday. I just don't think we were expecting City to play the way they did, and they got an early goal. And it changed it. It was a sucker punch to us, and it just knocked us off balance, really. But I do think this Moreno stuff's getting a bit blown out of proportion, in my opinion.
But also, to be clear, it didn't work against. I know you guys won against Bilbao. If you watch that, game, it didn't work against Bilbao.
You had to bring on the substitutions.
Yeah, you got for the last 2
play a different way of football.
No,
it never works.
But I think that's why Nobbins is right. I think Nobbins is being his usual kind and considerate self when he says I wouldn't use the word outsmart. I'll use it for him. I think he did. I think he kind of called bluff a little bit. You're not going to play defensive. And I feel that he was thinking there was going to be a really strong, hard press from City, which is why I think he picked those midfield players. And I think he felt they might have been going on the counter, which I can understand why you would want Eze to be part of that. I still think Eze should have started the game. I haven't changed my thoughts, but I think he was caught completely off guard. And we know now that the Madueke substitution was more injury, but I think the reason you can tell he was caught off guard, outsmarted, whatever it was, out-tacticked. What is it that Big Sam said once when he beat Jose?
We out-tacticked them.
Yeah, we out-tacticked them. Yeah, they out-tacticked them. They should put that word into the dictionary because it actually sounds better than the other way. But he out-tacticked them, and that's why Arteta made the sub at half-time. I think he realised that. Could he have made the sub earlier? Could he have done a 35-minute sub in the game and then afterwards said the players did nothing wrong? We just had to change approach, maybe. But yeah, I think that's true. Brandon's back again and says, just to give you guys a stat, Rice and Moreno have started in the midfield together 10 times. Arsenal have won 1 of them. It clearly doesn't work. So why is Arteta persisting with it? What I would love to see with that stat is what games were they, who and where. And the reason I say that is because are you playing, is it predominantly Cities and Liverpool's, Man United's, Chelsea's? Or is it Burnley's and Leeds and Southampton's last season, Ipswich's? I think that matters because I think that I remember there was a stat once that showed Liverpool and it was like the last 100 games with Gerrard versus the last 20 games without him, and without him the win percentage was higher and the goals per game were higher. And I always remember laughing and thinking, yeah, but most of those games were against sort of league won teams in the League Cup and things like that, where they're easier to win. So I'm not saying your stats wrong, Brandon. I just love to know who you were playing.
Yeah, I think I've got that list here.
I'll go on because it might be really bad, but I think it's always important for the context on the stat.
You'd after the ones where like they've both started together, is it?
Yeah, well, that's what it says. They started together 10 times. I just love to know what games they were to really bring that. I used to say it's about Pogba with a walking stat. I had no idea whether walking for 25 minutes was good or bad because we didn't know what everyone else was doing. You can't. It's a little. You get where I'm coming from? Sometimes you need a bit more detail.
Well, I've got it. Yeah, I've had to try and filter out which ones are with Marino up top and which ones are with him in midfield.
That's also
But from what I can see, the first game they started together in midfield was Bournemouth away last season, a 2-0 loss. The next one they started together was Liverpool at home, which was a 2-2 draw. Then it was Newcastle away,
tough
a
game,
1-0 loss. Fulham, not Fulham away, sorry. Monaco at home, which was a 3-0 win.
Okay.
Everton at home, a 0-0 draw.
Okay.
Brighton away, a 1-1 draw.
Tough
Villa at home, a 2-2 draw. And then you get to the run where he's up front.
Okay.
And then it gets to this season, which is Arsenal away at Liverpool, 1-0, and Arsenal at home to City, 1-0.
So 6 of those 10 are tough games, as in we know going away to Brighton, we know going away to Bournemouth are tough games. But what I will say, it's still not good enough. It still isn't good enough and working to that level. Just wanting to understand the context of that. Wayne here says Nobbins got it spot on. Arteta got the starters wrong, but not because of the result, but because of the way City played. Hence the change at half-time. It's fair. Unrelated, I'm driving the McTominay truck, Terry, 18th in the Ballon d'Or on the rankings over Haaland, over Rice, over Wirtz, over Van Dijk. Hold that, Tom Little, the Scottish king of Napoli. Yeah, big up to Scotty Mac, man. Big up. I'm really, really happy and proud of him. It's overanalyzing is what Harold said. He went PS, Haaland 26th in the Ballon d'Or. And by the way, when it comes to the Ballon d'Or, everyone going about how it should just be the same person every year because you're not the best player one year, not the next. It's not based on how good you are ability-wise. Ability plays no part. Actually, I think the Ballon d'Or actually shared this evening what they vote on. And do you know what I love about it as well? Do you know, there's another great irony in this as well for the whole, for the debates myself and Hassam used to have, because he would use people use, it's about individual awards. This is what you win the Ballon d'Or for. It's awarded on individual performance, not ability, performance. How decisive you were, so clinical, and showing an impressive character. 2, team performance and achievements. Do you know what I fucking love about this is we're living in a world where people keep saying what you do as a team doesn't matter. It's about individual achievements. To win the individual achievements, it's about what you do in a team. Team sport, dickhead. And number 3, maybe I shouldn't have swore when I said that because number 3 is about class and fair play. But you get my you get my point. Like that's what it's based on. So I don't want to hear but this guy's got more technical ability. Technical ability means fuck all without performance. Simple and as straightforward as that. I'm going to come back to these super chats in a moment. I've got another fictional football question. We're on Arsenal, so we were going to go on to them later, but we'll stay on them because of this. And I'm going to throw this question to KM. Fiction or fact? Is Mikel Arteta's cautious approach holding Arsenal back from becoming Premier League champions?
I don't want to cop out. I'm going to go true. I think, of course, there is an element of you've come against a City team. Maybe you've not been better than. Maybe you've not been better than us last year with your injuries to account. However, your manager, it's what it instills into a player. It's very much that belief that you put into it. And some of the big games where he's put out this year specifically, going into it, has told his team, I don't think we can hang with these big boys. I don't think we can hang with the Liverpool. I don't think we can hang with the City, which is why let's say it's not super defensive, but it's pessimistic. We saw the benches where he had Wanyeri, Eze, Dowman, Odegaard, then he had Eze this week, Nelly, and it just shows if you have all this talent, especially this offensive talent at your disposal, these are the games you come out with. We played against Arsenal where we had conceded in every game in the season, and we started the midfield where we had Averts, we had Salah, we had Ekatike, we had Gakpo. We could have shot up shot and like this last weekend played with 3 in the middle, but no, we went offensive. And I think that kind of mentality for a manager, yeah, there is a level of holding back. There's been great competition, but your manager is what brings this team together and really sets the onus. And unfortunately, in your 2 biggest games this season, the onus hasn't been set, and that comes from your manager and the team selection.
What are you saying, Seb? Do you think Arteta's cautious approach is stopping you from becoming? Do you think it will be the reason you don't win the Premier League if you don't win the Premier League?
No, I don't think it will be. Like last season, Arteta's approach didn't stop Liverpool from being world class. So there's other teams that can be in it. But the thing is, even if you look back, before we lost Liverpool, we hadn't lost to another top 6 rival in 2 years. So he was getting more points from these big games. The problem we had before was we were losing those games and then battering everybody else. Whereas the problem was slipping up against sides like the Villa game where we lost. We were being attacking in that game. That's the game that everyone says we lost the title in. We were being attacking in that game and we lost the game. Being tough to beat against these big sides, I think, is a plus point, especially when you're going into the Champions League. Like we went away to Real Madrid and we played relatively defensive. We still won the game. There's more than one way of winning the game, but he's not pessimistic in all games. Most games we are attacking. It's just in the bigger games where he prefers to be more safe and retain the ball. I think part of it also is Zubamendi's come in, so maybe he doesn't fully trust Zubamendi to sit there by himself, especially because Zubamendi isn't the most physical player anyway. And I think if Ødegaard was fit for these games, he would have played and we would have been more attacking because he trusts Ødegaard more as he's just come in. So it's unfair to put it straight on all of Eze anyway. And when you're going through those Marino games, Marino was playing in those games because Ødegaard wasn't fit. So it is a personal wise, but I don't think the reason why we've lost those titles is him being pessimistic. It was in that season we lost to City. They got more points, but it was just games where we slipped up. I don't think it's down to that. I think you have to be more nuanced than that. There's no chance it's just because he's being pessimistic. All managers are pessimistic at times when they win trophies. So,
but he's been not won trophies. So it's like, when is he gonna?
I think he's overdoing it. I think the 23-24 season, that's the season where we kind of took it to the last day. I think that was the best balance in terms of that second half where we weren't conceding, but we were attacking enough where we were getting 4-0s, 5-0s, So right now, I think he still doesn't trust his squad. He's playing this Moreno midfield, which doesn't work. Objectively, I don't think it works because I don't think he provides enough defensively when you watch him in the game. He's not tracking back and doing the destroyer role like Rice, and he's not actually helping Madueke in attack. Every time I saw Madueke is literally doing everything by himself, like what Saka usually does. And I think it's because Moreno is an experienced player and he trusts him, but he doesn't trust besides Ødegaard right now, he doesn't trust anyone to start games there. He doesn't trust Waneri to start there, and he doesn't trust Eze to start there. So that's why he keeps going for this Moreno stuff. So I don't think it's just a defensive thing. Thinking about it, I think he just doesn't trust his squad, and he should trust his squad.
Nobin, you about to say something?
I was just going to say that the reason why they haven't won the title is because they don't score enough goals. 2 seasons ago, they had too many 0-0. Well, they had too many games where they didn't score a goal. I think they had 3 or 4 more than City. And that's why they didn't win title. It's lovely having a great, record against the big 6 and not losing games, but you don't win a title by not losing, because winning since the 3-point rule got introduced has always been more valuable than not losing. So I do think there is too much of an emphasis on not losing and not enough of an emphasis on winning based on that. And I think that the approach in the City game, as we've just outlined, is a perfect representation of that. We all agree that you shouldn't have played that midfield 3 along with Trossard. That is just overly negative for a City side that got beaten by Brighton, got battered by Spurs, has just played on Thursday. It should be there for the taking, but the first instinct is to prioritize being conservative and being secure. And sure, he fixed it in the second half, but the first half was wasted by then. A whole 50% of a football match down the drain because of that mindset. So I think there is a lot of truth in that statement. Now whether it's because he doesn't trust his squad or whether it's because of his own philosophy, I don't know. But
It's a bit of both, I think.
yeah, perhaps, absolutely. But yeah, objectively, Arsenal haven't won the title because they haven't scored enough goals in the requisite seasons. That's why. Liverpool scored more goals than last season. We scored more goals than the seasons prior in more games as well. That's the key. So yeah, it's definitely objectively.
I think as well, when you look at Arsenal and you look at them big games, yes, they weren't losing those big games in that run, that whole 2-year run. But I think a lot goes on the stage with how big it is to win one of those games in terms of the momentum and in terms of the belief, because winning a title is as much a mental thing. And I mean, when we beat City last year, when you win a title, you go back to what was the game that made you believe, and more often than not, it's when we beat the title rival or when we really put it to the title rival. Last year for us, it was when we beat City 2-0 just after beating Real Madrid 2-0, and that's when you're sitting there going, we're beating the very best. Now, albeit City weren't at their greatest last year, but it's still the size of the team more than anything. In these games, all I've heard is Arsenal building the squad, they're building the squad, they're building the squad. And now I look at that Arsenal squad, and I'll be brutally honest, that Arsenal squad is the best squad in the league in terms of total depth and average quality per player, because you've got so many decent players in that squad now.
Facts.
I think Arsenal should be going into these games believing they are better than their opponents rather than trying to get away with, we won't win, but at least they won't win. We'll play it on as even type thing. I think if Arsenal start going into some of these big games, because the one time they done it when they beat City 5-1, I was sitting there going, that's it. That's the mentality you want. Those runs, the most scary Arsenal being under Arteta was that 22-23 season when they were going into games against the bigger teams and going, we can beat you. Now, albeit sometimes it didn't come off because the squad wasn't there. But what you have now that you didn't have then is a better squad. If you can get that mentality back where you're going into the games going, we can beat you, we can beat anyone on our day, and we're going to show you that we can beat you by playing our football. We're not going to try, you're going to try and stop them, but we're not going to set up to nullify you. We're going to set up to play our game. If they get back to that, then I'm starting to see it seriously.
Yeah,
but right now,
I agree
it
with
just
that.
feels like in the big games, Arteta's plan is, how can we stop them? And then that means that your game suffers because of it. Because yes, Mikel Merino might be better in terms of winning a physical midfield battle, but I think he hates it overall creatively. Maybe Trossard is better disciplined on the left, but I think he hates you creatively, and it stops you being able to play your game to the best of your ability. And I think that the teams that win Premier League titles, bar the odd, special case like your Leicesters and that, are the teams that impose themselves on others in games and show that they're there to play their game week in, week out. That's how I think you win a title. And Arsenal now have the squad to do that. But the manager, for some reason, is just refusing to do it in the big moments.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I said that yesterday, to be honest. I think this is he's not imposing his will on teams. He's not going out there and forcing the issue.
Zane here says Arsenal haven't won a game where they've been trailing 1-0 at half-time in the last 13 times. The last time Arsenal came back to win when losing at half-time was Nelson versus Bournemouth. Challengers, not champions. We said, would you look at that as a slight concern? Because when you think of Liverpool, when you think of City in the last 8 years or so, the amount of times they've come from behind to win games has been quite special. Is that something that you've got to also get fixed?
I think it's slightly misconstrued, that stat anyway, because I think they said yesterday at home we've only gone behind 7 times. We do barely concede first, but I do think Arteta was good. He reacted well when we did get back into the game. But yeah, it is. But the thing is, it's like, especially when you're watching City sit 10 behind the ball, it's difficult to break those teams down anyway. But yeah, I'm not too concerned, especially because when we had the exact same conversation last year, and we got nearer the end, we were playing a lot more attacking. I think he is conserving energy, especially with the amount of injuries we've already had this year. It is a slight concern, especially the type of injuries we're getting. So once again, I think it is down to personnel on that. But I think we'll if it gets to January and we're still doing the same things, and it's like we're not trying to win, especially when we're still playing that same midfield. If it's getting to January and we're still doing that, then yeah, I'll get worried. But it's only been 5 games in. I'm not too concerned really right now. I think it is a little bit reactionary, so I'll hold out now. And yeah, it's not particularly concerning to me right now.
Has it been 5 games? Has it not been 3 years?
No, I wouldn't say it's been 3 years because we were attacking 3 years. Even the title race we were in with Man City, we were attacking most games there. It's just if you even look at the starts of seasons, Arsenal are always a lot more conservative at the start of seasons than when we progress on. And I do think Ødegaard being injured, Ødegaard would have played the games that Mourinho has played if he was fit. I know I want to see it as a start, but I just don't want to be too overly negative already. It's just not my way of thinking, really.
But then again, I get the whole Ødegaard was injured thing, and that's a very real point. But you've got Waneri there, and this is again when it comes down to, is the manager got the belief and want to impose himself on his opponent, or sit there and go, I'm missing my midfielder. Let's just set up with a physical one that's going to neutralise theirs. Because I'll be honest, when Waneri got his opportunities last season, yes, if he was to get an extended run, you might get some poor games. He's going to be inconsistent. But putting an actual attacking midfielder in the position probably helps the overall team better than rejigging the midfield shape to fit in a more box-to-box midfielder and then having to have others pick up the slack that is being created because you're missing the 10. This is the point that I think not that I'm trying to get across here. It's Arsenal when it doesn't go, when they have a little bit of trouble, or when it's not the idealistic conditions, it's rather than dust yourself off, get on with it, keep going the same way. It's retreat to shell, let's recover. You said Arsenal start every season slow, so basically every season Arsenal are playing catch up, and at no point have they played catch up and got over the line yet. So maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop letting yourselves get in positions where you've got to play catch-up in a season and let yourselves be the pace setters and let yourselves dictate how the level others have to reach.
That's fair. Ash here says, no one's anti-Arsenal. Facts is defensive setup equals this season. Arsenal conceded 2 goals, costing them 5 points. Liverpool conceded 7 goals, costing them 0 points. Obviously that goes into what Nobbins just spoke about, scoring goals and maybe killing some games off and everything else. This here says from Becky, says, Terry, can you look at your Twitter? I packed a 1-in-1 Ibra card match worn patch worth 1 to 4k, spent £500 on the whole Tops box. Yeah, I see your tweet. You got something to do with Van Dijk as well. Fair play to you, mate. Wicked. Big up Tops. I used to work with Tops. Good people over there. Football didn't start the day after Arteta won his last trophy. Arteta or Arsenal haven't won anything. We weren't born the day after he got hired.
This is an Arteta thing. It's not an Arsenal. Arsenal's won enough. Like in terms of our history, the problem is since we've started challenging for the last couple of years, Arteta personally, he should have picked up stuff. So the whole narrative that Arsenal never win is like, come on, what are we doing here?
Yeah, look, I agree with that, but equally, it's some of the stuff today that I've seen. Like the Liverpool, we've got a lot of respect for Liverpool, but I saw massive Liverpool fans, prominent podcasters. You'd never see us celebrate an equalising goal like that. We'd go straight back to the halfway line. Literally in your fixture against Arsenal away last year, he scored an 81st minute equaliser, and Mo Salah went and slid to the corner flag and celebrated, then run back to the halfway line to start the game again. I feel like just some of the things that are said about Arsenal go over the top. They won't ever win because they celebrated that equaliser. Well, I've seen teams that do win trophies celebrate the equalisers. So you may think they'll never win a trophy, and that's fair, but the examples you give are just bollocks. Bernardo Silva complaining about the lack of rest. But if an Arsenal player moaned about the lack of rest, it would be that's because he's not elite. That's where I sort of look at I get frustrated when people do like poor analysis in that way. Not because it's about Arsenal, just because it doesn't make any bloody sense whatsoever. It really, really doesn't. Controversial. Waneri is better than Ødegaard, is what Axfire says here.
Not yet. I think he will be very soon.
Pep has condemned playing anti-football. Like, he said a few things in the past. I remember against Newcastle a good few years back now, he said kind of words to the extent of, we did absolutely everything, but it's difficult to play when other teams don't want to play. He's made comments like that. I don't think he's ever used the word park the bus. That's a Jose thing, but he's definitely made those comments. And I remember watching at least 2 or 3 KDB interviews where he said very similar.
I didn't hear Pep say it. I thought it was just Rodri and them, man, getting salty after we went for a draw in the title race season.
This was quite a while back. I think also when Spurs beat City 3-2, I think when Harry Kane got that late winner, it was, again, words to the effect of, he kept on talking. He does, you know what Pep does, and I know Nobbins knows because he loves him, but he does the whole, they're a great team. They had a lot of players behind the ball. It's really hard, but, they deserved it. You can almost hear the sarcasm kind of in his voice, but you can tell he's frustrated at the way they played. There's a little bit of that in there as well. But no, there was a Newcastle game where he definitely called out, said that we were the ones trying to play. So, yeah, it's been said. There's no doubt about it, but... how about this? He went cautiously to see the game stat. People are acting like every game should be frenetic. Even Slots was cautious against Arsenal.
Not against the City team. I'm sorry. I'm not having that.
You can't be cautious against us. We're weak. We're frail.
I was so confident we were going to win that game. I was like, okay, we're going to beat the City team. They did, especially because I don't know if like Arsenal and Manchester City have built a little bit of a rivalry. There's a little bit of an edge in the games. The players don't like each other that much. We saw it with the celebrations and the shit talk after the games. So I was expecting us to be like, okay, like the season hasn't, we haven't been imposing ourselves in the game. Now we're going to go for the kill because it's City at home. Yeah. So I thought we were going to take it to them because we don't like them.
No, I agree. I agree with you on that. Viewers, make sure like buttons have been hit. Make sure you are subscribing to the Football Terrace. Get these likes up on this show right now, please, people. Get that done. Next question kind of filters into a team we do need to talk about because they are winless since football returned, and we're not talking about Manchester United. I just need to point that out. We're not talking Man United. We are no longer winless since the international break. But, of course, Chelsea haven't won a game since football returned. Late equalizer to Brentford, beaten by Bayern Munich, beaten by Manchester United. What are we saying about them at the moment, Tom? Because they won the Conference League, they won the World Club Cup, they're world champions. Large percentage of their fans, if we speak about the fans, especially that are in the Football Terrace community, praise their summer, love their signings. Prominent Chelsea fans who have a big following, like Don, didn't want Donnarumma over Rob Sanchez, and as an example, they're constantly defending that element. But I mean, he himself was massively culpable for that defeat. But I will praise Man United here. It was a game where we started like a freight train. Could have scored 2 goals before the red card as well. Let's not forget those facts of the matter here. But Chelsea look a little bit vulnerable at the minute and not able to pick up these wins. And even Maresca, I mean, we spoke about it on this morning's show, but if we're going to call Arteta a coward, I mean, what do you call taking off all your attackers 3 minutes into a game, but leaving Palmer on the pitch when you know he's got a knock? I mean, talk to me, because Chelsea at the minute, not looking great.
It's almost like, this whole Club World Cup thing, and oh my God, this Chelsea team are there. They're not there yet. Chelsea are not there as a team at the top, and that is fine. But I'm not. The whole summer I was told that they're there, they're this, they're that. At the end of the day, this Chelsea team, I've said it for 2 years now. I've said it for so long. When your defense is that and your goalkeeper is that, you will not win the major honours. You won't. You will not win a Premier League or a Champions League when you have Bob Sanchez in goal and a centre-back rotation of Fofana, Chalobah, Colwill and Tosin. The manager had got it incredibly wrong. He got every single part of that game wrong, which is impressive to do. He had 3 centre-backs to pick from, and he picked the 2 wrong options, considering Benjamin Sesko. About the only thing he's got on his locker, in my opinion, is his physicality. He can jump quite high. So you pick your 2 worst in the air defenders to mark him. That's where the goal comes from. Then it's almost like trying to be too tactical and too big-brained. Let me take off all my wingers now and overload the midfield, and then I've got it all in, and we can do this, that, and that. No, what happened was you took off all your wingers, you overload the midfield, and then when you got your opportunities against a team that is so low on confidence, is so vulnerable defensively, you had absolutely no outball. The only way Chelsea could get off the pitch was a long ball to Joao Pedro, and then he had to hold it up for 10 seconds to wait for one of Enzo Fernández or Andre Santos to make a run beyond them. It was idiocy. Palmer shouldn't... If Palmer was injured and you start him and you're going, look, he might give me 45, and then you get a red card, it's your chance. You just go, look, we're not going to do it. We'll keep the wingers on. We'll play on the counter. You take your wingers off, then you're forced into another one because Palmer can't be there. It just... Everything about it made zero sense. And then what it meant was when Manchester United, mainly Casemiro, fucked it. You had no way to punish them until you brought a winger on. And then you brought the wrong winger on. Why are you bringing on Tiny George and not going at you? It made no sense. United, in that second half, took off Sescom, which I think was the wrong move, went to a deep, 5, whatever. 5.
It wasn't. We won the game.
Okay, so if we're doing that, it worked. But in my opinion, you shouldn't have took Sesko off because it meant you lost a big outlet and you lost a way to get out when you won the ball back.
Did it cost us the game?
It didn't cost you the game because Chelsea didn't capitalise on it.
Because we stopped them from attacking.
No,
we stopped them.
But my bigger point here is, when I'm saying the manager got everything wrong, the moment you take your outlet off and you're struggling to get off the pitch consistently, why is he bringing on a right back?
Who?
Why is he bringing on a right? He brought on Malo Gusto with his last 2 subs.
Oh, okay. I forgot about.
Why is he bringing on a right back? Why is he not putting on another attacker and trying to get as many players forwards against such a weak?
Yeah, but you know what? No, but you know what? No, the reason he took Gusto off is because Cucurella got an orange yellow, if that makes sense. That was a very bad lungy tackle, and we were countering, and it was wet and slippery, and he was exhausted. And I think what he was protecting against was another yellow card coming against Cucurella, because I think Cucurella was one more foul away and would have gone. And I mean, I would have loved to have seen that 10 versus 9 in that weather. It would have. I mean, it was the most Manchester weather you could ever see in your whole life. But what do you guys think of that? Of what said, like, of Chelsea? Because they kind of, I want to say this with some respect to Chelsea, the level of criticism they didn't get, I thought, was quite interesting, because it was 3 games without a win. Man United got more criticism. Amorim was spoken about more after the game for taking Šeško off than their manager. I felt the narrative was, I don't expect a witch hunt. I think that would be ridiculous. But I was kind of confused that most of the headlines relating to that game were about United.
Yeah, honestly, it's a bit perplexing to me. I obviously, on my last appearance on the show, I said Chelsea were hugely overrated, and I said their midfield was overrated. And surprisingly, a lot of people did agree with me. I was expecting to get abuse for that, but I think their frailties are getting shown. I think United did what they needed to do. Everyone criticises defensive performance, but you're up. They're down to 10 men. Packing out, getting a bit more defensive is the right thing to do, in my opinion. Maybe not taking Šeško off, but because he is an outlet. But I think Man United did the right thing to do, and they beat Chelsea. No one predicted well, historically, Chelsea are pretty poor at Old Trafford anyway, but most people were not expecting Manchester United to win this game. They got the win. They've got a big 3 points. So I don't really get where the criticism's from. I think it was one of Manchester United's better performances this season against us. Everyone says there's a strong Chelsea side, but I think it just exposes the holes that Chelsea do have. Their back line is not good enough. Their goalkeeper is horrific. Even the midfield, even before Man United started that, they were the better midfield out of that. There's a game plan against Manchester United to exploit this team. A lot of players, even Grimsby, managed to exploit this Manchester United team. Chelsea didn't. No invention up top. I think the constant recycling of their team, I didn't rate their transfer window really, and there's not as much cohesion there. Obviously, the red card makes a big difference, but I think the criticism of Man United, I think there should be more praise for United. They've got the 3 points against the top 6 rival, which is a big thing. It's a big 3 points. Chelsea do need more criticism, but I just don't seem to see it. Arsenal are getting more criticism for a draw than Chelsea are for losing. So I don't get how it makes any sense at all, really.
Can I just
Because
say as well? On
we're a bigger
Chelsea,
club. That's why it makes sense.
that Enzo Fernández, the fact Enzo Fernández has gone under the radar this year for how crap he's been.
He's so overrated. It's ridiculous.
He-
2 years ago,
he's a net-
he was
he's a net
really
negative
heavily
in that
criticised.
midfield.
Now there's nothing.
He's a net negative in that midfield. He's more often than not a liability. The biggest thing for Chelsea was midweek, and I know we're talking about the United game, but I do want to talk. You know, this Chelsea team, they're going on about, oh, we're going to be dark horse in the Champions League, we're going to be this, we're going to be that. They got dismantled by Bayern Munich. They got dismantled tactically and quality-wise by Bayern Munich. And this is a Bayern Munich team that, I mean, we done a draw show, Terry. I don't think any of us put Bayern Munich as the favourites for the Champions League, or second or third. This is a Bayern Munich team that not many people are putting in this discussion to be, they're the best team in Europe. So you know what? Getting dismantled by them, it's not the worst thing in the world. You saw the players couldn't handle it. You saw the manager got tactically outclassed. Then you go to United, which is a game, albeit should be a confidence game because United that week. And then there's a massive cock-up because the players aren't good enough. And the manager once again shows he's not good enough. But if you dare criticise Chelsea, they come at you like hounds. Oh my God, how can you say that? Champions of the world, champions of this, that. And yet, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing why I should see this Chelsea thing as, they're there. I should be worried about Chelsea now. I'm not. Brentford, a mentality problem. Again, not seeing out that game. And it might have been offside. Bayern, quality problem, but they don't want to miss it. Chelsea, United, complete capitulation from the manager. 3 separate problems in the last 3 games that are big issues. I just don't see how we're going to be talking about this Chelsea team like this big I am. You know, I'm having the success. There's about 2 good players in that team. There's about 2 players who I'm sitting there going, they'd be a real top player in this. In, you know, if we're doing best team of the Premier League, I'll push it to 2.
Palmer Caicedo.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to change the fictional football question. I was going to ask something about Robert Sanchez, but you said something that I liked even more as a question for the audience and the panel. And I'll throw this to Mr. Nobbins, first of all. Fiction or fact? Is Enzo Fernández is a net negative for Chelsea?
Oh. Well, based on this season?
I think, do you know what? Let's just do. He's been there 2.5 years, nearly 3 years now. Let's just base it on what he cost, how long he's been there. Does he make them better?
Right. Oh, if we're taking into account price, then absolutely. He's not justified his price tag, definitely. I was going to say that if we're just taking it in a vacuum, I think that Enzo's he's had a good couple of seasons at Chelsea, maybe 1.5. I don't know. Based on this season, no. If we're accounting for price tag, though, then there's very few players because he was 110, 105, something like that. It was a lot, wasn't it? There's not many players over 100 million that you'd say justified their price tag, really. He's certainly not one of them.
106.8.
Yeah, that's mental. I guess I'd have to say fact based off those parameters. Yeah.
Go on.
Even if you take out the price tag, I'm not sure if he's the right guy for them because I'm still confused by what Enzo Fernández is as a midfielder because I don't think he's an engine and I don't think he's a creative outlet. So I'm still confused by him and I think he's just not good enough. I think he's in that midfield, he just becomes one of the guys, you know, because when you have Palmer and Caicedo in there, you can see them being, oh man, this is an insane. These are top level players that really make a difference in the team. But for Enzo Fernández, he's just there. And I don't think even if he cost 50 million, I think Chelsea should have been working on upgrading him. You know, I think his price tag means that it's going to be very hard to justify moving him on. But I think if Enzo Fernández cost 30 million, I would have been looking at trying to actually sign a real 100 million pound or whatever midfielder. So I don't think he justifies.
You wouldn't swap him for Rice then?
No one would swap him for Rice. No one here would swap him for Rice.
Kane, what do you make of Enzo Fernández?
I think when you can say this for a lot of players, like when they're good, they're good. When they're bad, they're bad. I think with their midfield, I think depth-wise, we spoke about kind of Arsenal top to bottom have, I think, the best depth in the league. That midfield, I saw Andre Santos last year at Strasbourg, and I think he was exceptional there. And there was a lot of hype about him, and I thought he would maybe have more of a prominent place in this Chelsea team. You saw when he came on midweek against Bayern, he looked good. He looked for Cole Palmer with the offside goal, and Lavia, unfortunately, has been ridiculed with injuries. And I think Chelsea's midfield works best when there is Caicedo, Enzo, and someone else. I don't think he's perfect in a pivot because he's not necessarily got the engine. People joke about how he's a deep lying, box crashing number 10. Like, he doesn't have a fixed position. I'm still uncertain on him. I think there was this case we were talking about on the pod last week. It was like, if all the big six clubs, the midfielders, they did like a draft of, you could have each midfielders. We said Enzo would probably be like a bottom 2 draft pick out of all the big clubs in Europe, because unfortunately, when you want it, if it's a DM, you want the Rices, the Gravenberch, the Caicedos. If it's more of a CM role, the Pedris, the Fatinos, maybe the McAllisters. Enzo isn't the better cam if you have a Palmer, a Wirtz. He's not a best centre mid. He's not a best DM.
Bruno.
So, yeah. 100 goals. 100 goals for United isn't just something to scoff at. So I'll put him there. Enzo just isn't, he doesn't excel in a specific position. So, yeah.
I hear that. On Chelsea, though, I was looking at their record here. Look, drew with Palace, a very good team, unbeaten this year. They drew with them at home, though. Still haven't seen another free kick ruled out for a player standing too close to the wall. Could have gone the other way. They then beat West Ham 5-1, smash them, but West Ham, we have to admit, just context, are poop. They beat Fulham 2-0, but there was a controversial goal disallowed in that game, which could have changed it, but they won the match. They then draw with Brentford. Yes, controversy in Brentford's equaliser, so maybe you say that equals it up with the Fulham game. Beaten by Man United. I would say they haven't played a single team that any of us think will be in the top 5. Palace are very good. They've not played any of the the real good teams or the other Champions League teams as of yet.
The only Champions League team they got played off the park by Bayern.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. I mean, should Chelsea... I'm not saying Chelsea fans should panic. I'm someone that's predicted them to have a really good season, but I'm playing host here rather than giving an opinion. Should Chelsea fans be a little worried? They've got Brighton and Liverpool in their next two games. Then they're away to Forest. Then they play Sunderland. Then they've got Tottenham. I mean, the good thing for them is they don't really seem to have any blocks of games where they're up against loads of really good teams. There's always kind of like a really winnable game in between them, but they haven't really got going yet this season. And there was a lot of talk about being in title races, but falling off maybe, but firmly being within the top 4. And although they're only a couple of points away because they have got those draws and wins, they're not looking convincing right now. Would that be fair to say?
I think Chelsea fans just overrate their players a lot as well. When I was on stream, one of them said they got the best midfield in the world. Chalobah will start for Liverpool. When you're saying things like that, then there should be stick against it. It's just like, they're just not true statements.
Sorry, who said that?
I can't remember who said it on the last show, but they said it caused quite a bit of outrage. Yeah. But he said he would start over Konate.
Well, look,
what will start for Chelsea?
Yeah, look, I mean, I want to say that could have been Quest. If it wasn't Quest, it may have been CB. One of the two said that about
I can't remember who said it, but someone said it.
One of the two gentlemen said that. But obviously, we know Don. I think Don has gone on record as saying they've got one of the best midfields in the Prem, if not the best midfield.
Last season, he said outright. I remember Tom and I were here and we were pushing him on it, and he claimed that they have the 2 best defensive midfielders and the best player.
Oh, yeah. Romeo Lavia is one of the best defensive midfielders in the league, despite the fact he's played 1,000 minutes across the last three years.
So, yeah, I mean, look, there are some. I'm not saying it's all because we can't categorize all Chelsea fans that way, but I do feel it's. I mean, listen, I would say this. I would say pound for pound, it's been a worse start to the season than Manchester United. You know, we've had to play Arsenal and we've had to play Manchester City, who are tough games. We are not as good as Chelsea. That's also been said as well.
1 point behind them.
And we're 1 point behind them. And I think that one of the other fiction, I mean, I'll ask it now because it's kind of part of it. One of the other fiction or fact questions I had is 7 points in 5 games is actually a good start. It's actually a good start for Manchester United. And for me, I mean, I remember, and this is why, again, context always key. I predicted 7 points in our first 5 games. And I did it on this show and I was fucking laughed at. Most of our viewers said, no chance, you'll be lucky to have 4 or 5. So I would say this. People would have probably predicted Chelsea having more than 8 points looking at those 5 games. And Man United people were convinced we're going to have less than 7 points. So I feel like, yeah, look, they've had a better start to us overall points-wise, and I still think they're a better team, and I still think they'll comfortably finish ahead of us. But I'm using Man United as a reference point that I don't think when you look at who they've played, Brentford are not a very good team this season. Man United are an awful team so far this season in terms of getting the results done. We've had some good moments in games, but we've not been able to beat anybody. And listen, the red card did change things, but we would have gone 1-0 up without it 3 minutes into the game, and I think we would have beaten them. We started the game very well, and the one thing that got that red card would have led to is what we haven't done against Arsenal and even Burnley is great starts. We didn't capitalize on it. We were about to capitalize there. So I think Chelsea have got a little bit of soul searching to do. I do think Chelsea have got a bit of soul searching to do. And Maresca's got to start getting some, I don't think it's just results. He's got to start getting some performances because as we all know, the performances, it's been a weird year for this. And I think it's because people want to really shit on Man United. This has been the first season I've ever seen where even the tactico type people are writing off performances. They're just talking, wins are all that matter. Wins are all that matter. It's because actually some of the underlying numbers, some of the underlying performances from Man United have actually not been that bad, but people don't want to have that conversation. But I'm going to just stay true and honest. I think Chelsea have got to put some performances together. The difficulty is they play Brighton next, yes, at home, but Brighton themselves, they're not in a great position in the league, but they've actually been quite good in their games. And then they play Liverpool. Then Chelsea play Liverpool. And I really do think Chelsea have got to get 6 points from the next 2 games before the international break. They can't be affording to, they can't drop points to Brighton because then that Liverpool game becomes very precarious. Because I'm telling you now, Liverpool I don't know when Liverpool are going to drop points. I can't see it. I can't even imagine it. It's crazy what them sons of bitches are doing.
It's probably going to be the annual Chelsea-Liverpool draw. We see it every single season. But just on what you were saying in terms of Chelsea's start for the season, when everyone saw Chelsea's fixture list, one of the big narratives was Chelsea was probably going to be top of the league by December because of their start to the season, and they'd eventually fall off because they don't have the experience or quality. But right now, we're not even seeing that. We're not seeing them get, anywhere near that. And it's also the way they're losing games. They got dominated by Bayern Munich. Let's not pretend like that was a close game. They deserve to lose that game. And also, against Manchester United, I was not expecting them to be dominated like that in that first half against Manchester United. They were completely pinned in before the red card. So yeah, I think Chelsea fans should be asking a lot of questions. I think after the amount of money spent, they've spent what, 2 billion, and to win a game of football, you need to bring off Garnacho. I think what they're doing right now it doesn't make any sense to me.
I was very happy he didn't come on. I think that was a massive mistake. Yes, he would have gotten a lot of crap, but I think Garnacho, I had a horrible feeling about him coming on. And when he brought Tyreek George on, I really did relax. Nothing much was going to happen from that point. Grump here says, oh shit, Terry, you've just jinxed yourself. You've got Brentford this weekend. Yeah, Brentford aren't a very good team compared to last year. But I'm talking about that compared to Chelsea. Chelsea are a much better team and have been a better team for the past 18 months or so than Manchester United. And they played a Brentford team that have been heavily weakened, that are down near the bottom, that are a legitimate relegation candidate this year. They haven't been very good. I also, by the way, think United should beat them this weekend. I really do think if we play to our best and they play to their best, I think we beat them. They don't have the players anymore that would... What I've seen from Brentford this year, they scored some goals, is they're playing not too dissimilar to how Thomas Frank had them play, but they don't have Ivan Toney anymore. They don't have Mbumo. They don't have Wissa, and it's hurting them because that quality's gone. But equally, Man United and Brentford are much closer to each other than Brentford and Chelsea. Chelsea should be winning that game. You know, they should be. I still think they should be beating Crystal Palace at home, especially when they're world champions. And that world championship hold weights. I'm not someone who's played it down. I didn't say it was a Mickey Mouse trophy. I've praised it. But you can't be champions of the world. You can't win 2 trophies. You can't be in title races. And then, or spoken about a team that could win the title or be in the race for the title. You can't be in those conversations and not take some criticism constructively when you're dropping points at home to Palace, when you're dropping points away to Brentford, and when you're getting beat by Manchester United, and your manager cannot escape criticism when he makes that knee-jerk substitution. And it wasn't even taking Neto off per se. It was leaving Palmer that has got a knock on the pitch. That's just, it's what sometimes in life, or maybe if you tempt fate, these things happen. And it was almost like leaving Palmer as the only attacker left on the pitch with Pedro. You were tempting fate that he was going to get injured, and he didn't use it. But it's got to be criticised. It has to be criticised.
When you're playing on the counter-attack, your attackers are going to be running a lot more and sprinting a lot more and physically exerting themselves a lot more. So if you've already got someone who's injured, you're just asking for them.
Exactly.
To wasting it by doing all that running.
I couldn't agree more. Zane here says that the biggest indictment of Enzo is that he currently only gets into Man United's midfield, which says a lot. Even Newcastle and Villa with Tielemans are better. I mean, yeah, listen, he would get into Man United's midfield, but he wouldn't be the player that I would pick to make us better, if that makes sense. It's a bit of a, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, yes, he would, but I wouldn't spend the money on him. I'd rather own Onana from Aston Villa as an example of someone we need. I'd rather Belieber, although Belieber's having a very bad season, but I do think that's because his head's been turned.
What
You know
problem?
I mean?
What problem does Enzo Fernández fix for any team?
The one thing he gives Man United that he is better physically and he's faster than our current midfield players. I'm not saying he's electric, but he's got more strength. And he is quicker across the ground. I think he's more durable than our midfield's a little bit lightweight in that regard. And mainly because Casemiro is well into his 30s. A 28-year-old he for me, it isn't that much better than a younger Casemiro. He's probably a little bit better at passing the ball. He's probably a better passer. But again, I don't think there is like, I don't look at it and go, when I say he's a better passer, he is. But I don't look at Enzo as, whoa, what a passer of the ball. I just look at him as a good passer of the ball, where I look at Casemiro as under average. I don't see this massive chasm. So if we're replacing our midfielders, Enzo's probably not on my list top 10 to top 15 midfielders that I would go out of my way to buy to improve Man United's midfield. He just isn't.
It's also a case of if you brought in Enzo Fernández to the United midfield, yes, he might be a better passer, but there's so many other problems that it brings with it because he lacks discipline. Positionally, so if you were to, God forbid, you were to put together Fernandez.
The thing is, we need someone that's more defensive-minded anyway, first and foremost. Mm-hmm. If you put a real defensive-minded, heavily athletic player, a Belieber, someone like that, or if you put someone like a Hayden Hackney, someone like that next to Bruno Fernandes, if Bruno then had a little bit more license and freedom because there was that cover behind him, and by the way, Man United's midfield being crowded out, it does annoy me. It's a centre-back issue more than a midfield issue. Our centre-backs meant to push into the midfield. The Lip, by the way, done it brilliantly at the weekend. We did it very well against Burnley at home. We just don't seem to want to do it away from home, and it pisses me off. And Bruno called it out and then got slagged off by our fans for it. He's like, yes, I pressed. Yoro's meant to step into the midfield, but he didn't. So when our midfielders press and our centre-backs don't step forward, there's a hole. The hole isn't because we play 2 in midfield. The hole is because we're not covering that area. Similar to Liverpool. When Liverpool were in their pomp under Klopp, the fullbacks push forward. Why were they not exposed regularly? Because 2 of their 3 midfielders would drop into those areas to cover the position. I'm just flabbergasted that Man United that we get told half the story about that situation. It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, I wouldn't pick him. I'd pick a Belieber. I would pick a Wharton. I think I'd sign Hayden Hackney before I'd sign Enzo Fernández. One, for the money he would cost, the salary that he would be on. And I don't think you're getting a big enough improvement for the investment that he would cost you as well. And money does play a part in it at the end of the day. Good player. Not saying he's crap, not saying he's rubbish. He's a good player. He's a Premier League player. He can play in this league. But yeah, I wouldn't look at him as, like some people talk about him, like he could get into that PSG midfield. I think it's crazy. Do a DNA test and you'll find Enzo's Filipino. Okay, I don't quite know that. See the beef between Enzo Fernández and Mount. Yeah, it's a bit of harmless fun. It's a bit of harmless fun. Unpopular opinion: this City team is built for an Amorim style football. Pep it. They've become a more transitional team. I think this team is not built for Pep, but his successor, Pep, has adapted to it.
The only team built from an Amorim style of football is one in a wash league where he can dominate it.
We'll see, Nobbins. We'll see. Well, listen, I don't overly disagree. It just doesn't work at Man United. It hasn't worked for us consistently enough. But yeah, we'll see. We will see. Viewers, do us a favor, please hit that like button and make sure you are subscribing. Tom, fiction or football? Why do refereeing decisions always seem to go in favour of Liverpool when it matters? 3 minutes of time added on. Everyone's got. Yeah, remember how this is worded? This was from a tweet. It said, "When it matters, the decisions always go Liverpool's way." What's your thought on that?
Hey, you little cheaters.
I mean, I know it's acceptable, really. I loved how, the biggest VAR controversy in the league's history benefited us, didn't it? It benefited us. We benefited from Luis Diaz's goal being incorrectly given as offside. The 3 minute thing's hilarious because there was no injuries in the game, and there was 3 moments where subs were brought on because a bunch of subs were made at the same time by both teams. So it wasn't like, I think it was like 5 or 6 subs in the second half, but about 4 of them happened at the same point. So there was 3 stoppages in play in the second half. Do you want the ref to have 8 minutes on because Everton need a goal? No one was down injured. No one. There was no. Everton took the ball back to the halfway line on the goal, so there was no extended celebrations. I'm just really interested to know which part of the 3 minutes should have been extended. That's the part. And they go, "Oh, well, you got 11 minutes against Newcastle." Yes, because 3 of their players had to go off injured, and there was like 5 different moments where subs were made. That's what happens in a game. There was 3 minutes. Ironically, if there was more time, we make it 3-1 because when the whistle's blown, we're in a 5v2. We're in a 5v2 on the attack. We scored that. It's 3-1. No one's sitting there going, "Oh, why is not 7 minutes?" It just blows my mind. Yes, Liverpool benefit from all the refereeing decisions. You've got me. You've caught me. We do. It's so obvious. There's so many instances like how we got 3 minutes at the time. I'm lost on it. But which refereeing decisions this year have gone our way to such a big point? Like that's what I asked. That's what I asked. Anyone in the comments?
The 3 minutes. The 3 minutes was weird. I think everyone knows. Like we usually see a minimum of 5, so it was weird to see. But I don't think it really. That's not really something to really complain about, honestly, because it's not really that big of a deal in terms of the refereeing decisions we've seen go wrong this year and what's always been going wrong. And if they should have got more minutes, it's not a Liverpool thing. We know the referees in the league; they're shit. So
there has been one real bad mistake in a Liverpool game this year, and it was against us in the Bournemouth game when Hugo Ekitike did 1 goal. And the fella slaps the ball away, and it wasn't given as a handball.
I agree. No, but do you think the way people are talking about Liverpool, they're just at a point now where they're clutching at straws because they're 5 wins from 5. They're not even at their best yet. They've still got the likes of Wirtz and Isak to integrate properly. Do you think it's just panic from rivals that they do just look a little bit unstoppable right now?
Yeah, I think it's just like jealousy as well. And I think that just happens when you're at the top of the tree. Like, as a City fan, I don't know how many seasons I've had to deal with like these conspiracy theories about all these referees are apparently in on it, and PG, MOL are also in on it.
Yeah, but beware when you were winning.
Oh, that's fair. And the Premier League, Premier League who are literally suing us, they are also in on it as well. It's just like one of those things, isn't it? And now it's, again, like when it was, I'm not saying Tom did it, but like lots of Liverpool fans did it when it was Liverpool versus City in the title race. City were buying the referees, and then when it was Arsenal against Liverpool last season or whenever it was, Arsenal fans accused Liverpool of doing it, and it's just cyclical. And if like Arteta and Arsenal get to the point where they're in a similar situation, then they will, in a similar fashion, be accused of buying it and cheating and that sort of thing. It's just how it happens, and I think that people just can't accept that maybe their clubs just aren't as good as they want it to be, so they lash out and try to clutch onto irrational things rather than just accepting that maybe they're not as good as they want it to be. I've accepted that City aren't as good as I want them to be. I don't need to accuse Liverpool of buying referees. I just need to accept that they're frustratingly annoying in like the 90th minute. But that's just a thing.
Sunshine here says foul against Everton, no cards for one later. In particular, Everton want to play a quick free kick, get booked. Favoured Liverpool to kill momentum. Just one of many opinions this year.
I don't know why we booked for taking the quick free kick. That I agree, but that's not the big thing that suddenly gave us the win against Everton, because a quick free kick didn't get taken. It
came out today that's because the ref wanted to talk to a couple of players and he told them not to take a quick free kick, and they did.
Oh, so it was delaying the restart then?
No, it was dissent. It was don't take a quick free kick, and he did.
So it was a deserved yellow card.
There's always a far simpler explanation.
I'll tell you what, how many brown envelopes are we giving these to start giving out deserved yellow card?
I don't know. Do you know what? I want to hate on Liverpool, but I'm getting to this point, right? I did a video on Terry Fluer's TV today. Go check it out. Just search for Terry Fluer's. Go and subscribe. Nearly 80,000 subs. So thank you all that are over there. But it was sort of a message to my fellow rivals of Liverpool. That should be all of us on this panel that are not Liverpool fans. And it was stop with the belly aching. Stop with the fake stats about Wirtz. Stop moaning about the refs. Stop talking about Liverpool in that way. Because I was like, you're making us all look bad. You're making us all look desperate. You're making us all look pathetic. Just hold back and wait for something tangible to criticize them over. It hasn't come yet. It may not come. It may. But some of the things that are being said, like there's a massive account that put out all these stats from Wirtz at the weekend, and they were just all lies. And I'm sitting there, and by the way, this is where Terry, the quote-unquote Arsenal fans, now defending his biggest rivals. I can't lie, guy. Maybe I'm becoming an old man, and I just didn't see it coming. I just think it's so pathetic and boring, even though it's my right. And maybe it's because it's being done so regularly that it isn't funny anymore, if that makes sense. And I said it about Arsenal, which just no matter what they do, there is criticism, and now there's lies being told instead of just criticism. And it's moved into the Liverpool space this year. You can go right back to early part of the summer of all the bullshit about Isak, when the media, prominent journalists, and listen, I know that Gary Lineker, does a lot of really good things for society and causes that he fights for. But this man was part of Presenter of the Year, but literally sat there on the biggest football podcast in the world, along with his co-host Alan Shearer, and told a lie that what Alexander Isak has done is unprecedented, going on strike, and could damage future transfer windows for clubs. And you sit there and think, you guys are older than me. You'll remember even more examples, but I can think back to as early as Pierre Van Hooijdonk doing it. And I sit there and I'm like, how is this going on? Why are these lies and these bullshit things being told? And then these big prominent accounts are not fact-checking and calling these things out. I'm going to plug the show again. It's why I've launched the show, Killing the Game. I think it really is shitty. I think it's horrible. That's not a dig at you, Nobbins, right?
Yeah, whatever.
See, that's a joke, right? That's a little joke. A quick little bit of banter and you move on. That's how it used to be. What's gone wrong, man? What's gone wrong with this world? What's gone wrong with this world? I don't know, man. What are you saying, KM?
Again, it's just rubbish. You speak this season. The two biggest, I personally think, VAR controversies were both in Chelsea games. The Crystal Palace one you touched on, the Fulham one, it was there for a minute. Now they're aggrieved because of the Brentford goal. There was an offside there. With us, like we've touched on, there should have been another sending off this year, a challenge on McAllister. That should have been a red card. That Newcastle game, let's not rewrite history. Those 11 minutes, everyone on the commentary said it looks like there's only one team that's going to win. It wasn't us that looked like was going to get a winner. So we managed to get that. You talk about Wirtz, you saw the fake stats. 006, but they're not counting their assist in the Community Shield. If you actually watched him midweek against Atletico, he was one of the best players on the pitch. I thought it was an excellent performance. He could have walked away with 2 assists or a goal if people just look at GNA. But again, it's a whole much about nothing. Historically, Sterling at the Etihad, I think the 13-14 season, Rodri handball Everton, like these big VAR controversies that benefit us so much. seem that we get the short end of the stick with it. But I think when someone wins and they win in the fashion that we've done this season a lot, naturally people are going to have things to say. Crystal Palace isn't an easy game on Saturdays. The only other unbeaten team this season, we faced them 5-6 weeks ago. We've seen how they've looked. I think that's something they should speak about more. But at the end of the day, we're 5 points clear after 5 games. People are struggling with it, finding it away, and I too would be mad and be looking for that rival, to be fair.
Seb, I've got a question for you. Is Ryan Gravenberch currently the best DM in the league?
The world.
Oh, well,
He's
I'll up
not
it
the
then.
best.
The world. Okay.
We can up it.
Yeah.
The world is quite big. I don't think he's the best in the world because PSG have the best midfielder in the world, in my opinion. I don't think he starts for PSG, so I don't think he can be. I think on form, I think it's just a big shock to people because when he first brought him in, that's not what he was brought in for. People were complaining that Liverpool needed a CDM, so I think he has stepped in really well. It's just his consistency that he's always a 7 to 8 out of 10. He never lets the side down. So I think on form, yes. On talent, no. There's more talented players who play CDM than him, but on form right now, he just doesn't put a foot wrong at all. So he's solved an issue that Liverpool had 2 seasons ago that everyone was screaming they needed a CDM, and he's solved that, and he's saved Liverpool a lot of money. So on form, yeah, he probably is. He don't put a foot wrong. He's consistent. He's always fit. You couldn't really ask any more of him. So I don't think he's the best in the world. But yeah, if he's playing, he's top of the league at the moment with Liverpool, so we can't really argue against it.
Sorry, on that. On form, how long is it from on form until like he is? Because
I was talking specifically about this season. I'm saying on form this season. He's been obviously, that's what I'm saying. He's been consistent for such a long time, and that's why he's put in these conversations, because he just doesn't have any dips. He's not the most talented player in the world, but because he's so good at doing what he's doing at the moment, he's so consistent. That's why he's the best at the moment, because he's not more talented than a lot of other players. He's not more talented than Rodri, for example. I think Rodri being injured has helped him be the best, because if Rodri is just a better player than Gravenberch. But because he's had injury worries, he's not really been in that conversation.
So I'm just going to push back on that, I guess, like talent, form or whatever, because on form, he's the best. But like you said, he's done it for over a year. So maybe the on form isn't necessary. Speak about talent, someone who came from the Ajax Academy, Bayern Munich, Liverpool. He's played at the biggest clubs in the world in each country, start for the Netherlands. You talk about talent, he's what, 6'3", 6'4". He's silky. He can pass. He's always in the passing lines. He can defend. He can track ground. He's faster. He's more mobile than a Rodri. You saw his goals on the weekend. He started the move, passed it to Sob, to Salah, made the run into the box. You saw that finish curled in. You saw the pass, the assist that he made to Ekitike for his goal. He seems to be able to do it all. So he's not as talented, but then he's putting the form and the consistency.
Do you think he is?
He's just.
So is he better than Rodri? Do you think if Rodri was fit all last season, do you think he's a better player than Rodri?
Fit all, he wasn't fit all last season.
What I'm saying is, if you
ahead of Rosberg right now, seeing what Rodri looks like in Gravenberch, I wouldn't have anyone else in that position rather than him. If I put Rodri into this Liverpool midfield, we're not looking how we're looking. So yeah,
because I do think there's been certain points this season that you have looked a little bit shaky, especially in the transition. You have conceded more goals. So there has been some points where Gravenberch.
The one game we got killed on transition, Gravenberch wasn't available for.
But it's just like I don't think he's as perfect as you think. I still think Rodri is better. I think overall Caicedo is better than him.
If we sit, Caicedo was not better than Ryan Gravenberch.
Let's
put that in the bin. Let's put that one in the bin straight away because he's not better than Ryan Gravenberch. If your point is Liverpool have looked shaky at times in transition and that therefore limits Ryan Gravenberch, Man City have looked really bad at points in transition. That should really limit Rodri then.
Tom, can I interject for a second? Sorry, interject. Why is Gravenberch better than Caicedo in your opinion?
Right, on the ball, there is an awful lot of distance between them. Ryan Gravenberch is incredibly effective in the defensive third, the middle third, the attacking third, whether the team has the ball, whether the team doesn't have the ball. He elevates the levels of everyone else around him. He's a physical phenomenon. He looks like if you were to put one of the silkiest 10s on the planet in the 6, and you don't lose any defensive coverage. You get stronger defensively if he's there. Defensively, like I said, wins all his duels, great in the air, reads the game well with his interceptions, going forwards, has an eye for goal, silky dribbler, the vision's there, and ultimately, Liverpool look infinitely stronger when he is at DM, and we've seen in the games that we've played this year against the best opposition, who has been the best midfielder game in, game out. It's Ryan Gravenberch. Against Arsenal, he's the best midfielder on the pitch. Against Atletico Madrid, he was the best midfielder on the pitch. Merseyside Derby, best midfielder on the pitch. That's the 3 biggest games of the season so far. Ryan Gravenberch has been the best midfielder on the pitch at an absolute minimum, and man of the match arguably in 2 of them.
Okay, well, so what games do you think? So I think the Newcastle game was a bit. When I look at Liverpool and I go, what frailties are there against a 10-man Newcastle side? You did get outplayed in the middle for large parts of that second half. Does that bring you up any? I think the biggest surprise for me has been Szoboszlai, where he's transitioned even to the right back. I think he's been arguably your best midfielder this season, personally, because of how good he's been. But it's just been times where I'm not saying he's bad. I'm saying he's definitely in the top 3 CDMs in the league. I just don't think he's a good.
The Newcastle game.
We've just criticised how bad Chelsea's midfield is, but Caicedo still excels in that midfield, despite having weaker players around him. Whereas Caicedo, it does help Gravenberch having such a good backline behind him as well, that eases the pressure on, because he knows even if he does have a mistake in him, there's still Van Dijk, there's still Konate, and he's in such a good, competent midfield as well. I do think Liverpool, you're such a good side overall as well, that it does kind of raise the level on him as well, whereas Caicedo is performing in a midfield that's a lot worse, and there's a lot more pressure on Caicedo to make those last-ditch tackles than...
Okay,
at the start of the season, I was getting told Chelsea's midfield's better than Liverpool's. So
yeah, but I don't personally think that. I don't rate Chelsea's midfield at all. I think Caicedo...
Ryan Gravenberch has given a much bigger job to do. So, yes, Ryan Gravenberch has a better defence behind him, but he's also given much more to do on the ball. Ryan Gravenberch on the ball is our chief progressor. The fact that after 1 year of playing at DM, there's now a turn that's synonymous with him, and he has used that against every opposition, and it is one of our most important assets in getting us forward up the pitch. That, like, he has to operate not just as a defensive midfielder. He doesn't slack away on his defensive work. He doesn't slack away on his interceptions, his tackling, whatever. Caicedo might have slightly better numbers, but Gravenberch's numbers aren't bad. But Ryan Gravenberch is 10 times more effective and more important going forwards and helping a team that is trying to impose themselves on opposition do that successfully and pin these teams back. And in the big games, like I said, Ryan Gravenberch has often left them as one of the best players on the pitch. Ultimately, in the big games this season, I've been underwhelmed by Moisés Caicedo. I felt that he could have performed better. And you were mentioning earlier the Newcastle game. That Newcastle game, first 15, 20 minutes, no one was great. Then him and Curtis Jones were very important to getting us having a good element of control in that game up until their goal. And when they attacked us after that, they completely bypassed the midfield. They were going long down the line. It was long balls down the line to Alanga, and it was long ball down the line to Barnes. Now, Ryan Gravenberch, he's a very good DM. He's not Inspector Gadget, able to suddenly grow 20 yards in the air and head away these long raking balls up. Both the goals that we conceded came from set pieces. Nothing that he can do. He didn't give away the foul for any of them. He wasn't caught out of position for any of them. Like, I can't go at him for these goals that were happening. It wasn't like they were playing it through the midfield and Gravenberch just dived in recklessly and being caught out. Gravenberch just cost the team there. Moisés Caicedo gave away a penalty against Bayern and wasn't great in that game at all. Against Chelsea, albeit they were down to 10 men, didn't think he was great. These are the big games where you need your big players to step up. Ryan Gravenberch, each big game of the season, stepped up, made himself be counted, made himself stand out. Can't say the same for Moisés Caicedo.
Yeah, the thing is, I give players credit for being the best players on great teams rather than being the best players on mediocre teams or challenge or top four teams like Chelsea. And the fact is, like Liverpool, they dominate the midfield almost every single game they play. Except us, I think we kind of nullified each other in that game. But they've basically been dominating, and Gravenberch is a part of that, and he is the defending champion DM. I don't think you can just say on form because he's been doing it for over a year now. So when he's had that, when he was the best DM last year for the entire year, that won Liverpool the title, and then he into this year he's looking like he's improving and getting better at the role. I think you can't just say this isn't a purple patch. It's too consistent, and I think he's successfully taken the crown. I'm not willing to wait 3 years before I call someone the best. I think at this point in time he is the best, and until Rodri takes it back from him at the moment, I think he remains to be the best. And I think Caicedo is one of Chelsea's best players. He's between him and Cole Palmer. I think those can be in the top 10 players in the league. But I still don't think Caicedo has shown what Gravenberch has shown in the big games. And let's face it, Caicedo just needs more experience. Caicedo hasn't been playing in the Champions League like Gravenberch has been playing in the Champions League. And he hasn't won a league. He hasn't even challenged for a league. So I don't know. He hasn't been put through enough to say that he's better than Gravenberch.
I think on technical ability, you often get into my preference versus your preference, and you're always going to have differences of opinions, and agree to disagree. But Gravenberch has performed in a title race in that position. We've seen him do quite well in the Champions League as well. We haven't seen that from Caicedo yet. And I'm going to keep it 100. I think Caicedo is excellent, by the way. I think he's a phenomenal player. I think on ability, he's one of the best players in the league. But performing in those huge sort of pressured games, I think is what separates the players. I mean, literally, you're looking at the Ballon d'Or award tonight, which many people sitting here that think Caicedo is great will praise that. They literally talk about how decisive you are in a team that performs and wins. So therefore, if that's helping to decide who the best player in the world is, why are we kind of removing that from general football talk? You surely have to look at those things, and he has done it. It's why I hold Phil Foden in such high regard, and I'll criticize him when he's bad, but I've seen that young man deliver in title challenging teams, in Champions League runs, in FA Cup runs, and wins, right? From earlier rounds right through to finals, whether he's scoring in every game or assisting or whatever it may be, influential in that approach. And I think when you're doing that week in, week out, it puts you onto a different level. I also, by the way, Steven Gerrard won major trophies for Liverpool. But when I compare him to Scholes, one of the things I talk about is Scholes doing it in all those title races. I can't say that in that debate and then ignore the fact that Gravenberch did it in a title race, because that would make me a hypocrite and I'm not going to do that. So listen, I think Caicedo is amazing. I take him at Man United in a heartbeat. But if I had the choice between him and Ryan Gravenberch, it is crazy again, though, isn't it? Just out of all the different players that had touched sort of the Man United that had played for Ajax, we seem to miss out on. I like Lisandro, by the way, Lisandro Martinez, but the fact that we didn't get Timber and the fact we didn't get Gravenberch actually pisses me off, because they're actually the kind of players from a physicality point of view that would have really helped us. We got that one wrong, didn't we? But Terry, by that logic, Odegaard is better than Bruno because he's done what he's done in a title race. Well, he hasn't delivered in a title race, so has he? That's quite literally Arsenal in their title race. They fell apart and fell off and didn't deliver. But I've also seen Bruno help Man United with major trophies and score and assist in finals. So there is that counterbalance there when I'm looking at both those guys. But when you're talking about KDB and Bruno, if you actually look at their time in the Premier League, both won trophies, both their numbers are very similar. I have to put KDB ahead of him because I saw KDB do it and deliver and have decisive performances that were led to his team winning a Premier League. By the way, if Odegaard had done that in those two races against City, in those last 10, 12 games, he was one of the best players on the pitch, scored some massive goals or set up some massive goals to win games, like KDB has done, as an example. Now, that's an attacking midfielder, so you're looking at a different sort of output and skill set to that of a DM. Then there would be no question I would maintain that logic. I'd maintain that train of thought. The reason why I always maintain it is I will never do anything to diminish the legacies of my past legends. Not to score petty points in 2025 to help prop up one of my current players. I'm not going to do something that will damage my legends ever. That's more important to me. Otherwise, what's the point of winning in the first place? All I ever hear about is standards FC and trophies are all that matter. But it's all bullshit because those same mugs don't care about things that were won 10, 20 years ago. And if that's the case, what's the point of fucking winning now if they're not going to matter in a few years' time? So they're, oh, shit. But no, I'd take Gravenberch. By the way, I'd take both of them in a heartbeat. Who's your backup DMs at your clubs? I'd probably take them and all, to be fair.
Endo.
Take up Enzo.
Now you wouldn't take Endo, would you?
I think you'd find they would take Endo.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
I'd take Endo.
No disrespect.
I would have taken Rodri when he had one leg. I think he'd do a better job. Honestly, like it's my midfield is weak. We're very, very weak, but there we go. Do us a favor, please, people, and hit that like button, and please make sure you are subscribing to the Football Terrace. Boys, I want to thank you all. There's a super chat miss here. Sorry, it says unpopular opinion: Liverpool need to sell Konate in January.
Why? We've got a
Dunno.
title to win. I mean, even if it's a case of he's going to leave next summer on a free, I value a title over the 20 million quid I get in January. Like Konate being in that team gives me more of a chance of winning the league title.
If you could guarantee Gahey comes in at the same time, would you still do it or not?
No.
No.
I'm not risking the balance when there's top honours on the line. I can just do that 6 months down the line.
Yeah.
And we're good on the money. The Premier League, trophy prize, we're good, man. We'll recuperate that anyways.
Could the panel please describe a major trophy?
The Community Shield, that's a major trophy.
There's only three that English teams can win: FA Cup, Premier League, Champions League. That's it. They're the three majors.
Mm-hmm.
Club World Cup, I suppose, if you're in it, but they're the three. Some people won't like saying the FA Cup. I'll never change my mind on that. Some will just say Prem and FA Cup. I think it often depends upon agenda as well, doesn't it? I think it often depends upon agendas, but yeah, there's three I would put it into. No, not four, because I would never consider the Carabao Cup a major trophy.
It's a very prestigious trophy, though. Do not get it twisted.
No, when we won it, you were sitting there with the Sam laughing that our players had their flags on their backs. I remember you, Tom Little. I remember that bullshit.
Yeah, because it's very prestigious when you win it.
Unpopular opinion: Liverpool go unbeaten this season.
I mean,
yeah, that's very unpopular.
Yeah,
it could happen. It could happen because it can't. We're still unbeaten. It could happen.
Hopefully Palace do something this weekend, please. Palace, come on, Palace, get that W this weekend. We need it. Just for the title race, it'd be nice as well. Look, my fear is that you guys end up getting like a 9-10 point lead really early in the season, and then essentially the title race is over. So I do want them to win just to like peg you. Sorry, mate.
Your fib, that's my dream, man. Give me that.
Is one man's what is it saying? One man's something is another man's poison.
One man's junk is another man's treasure. Something like that.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's kind of it. But yeah, I definitely fear that, and you definitely want it. Boys, always a pleasure to sit here and speak football with you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to redirect you to A-listers, so go and support Hassan on his channel. I'm back tomorrow morning around 11 a.m. with Mr. Mark Goldbridge for another episode of Hot Take. You can go and watch our latest episodes right now on Spotify by scanning that QR code that's on the screen. I want to thank everyone who's been following us and watching us over there recently. It's been amazing growth over on the podcast platform, Spotify. So if you're not following us there yet, go do it and go give us a little 5-star rating over there as well. That will really help us. Until next time, people, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And I'll see you soon. Peace.